So we all know that 2023 was a massive year for gaming. It was easily the biggest of all time, if you ask me, with so many amazing games launching. And yet 2024 is looking like it could actually live up to the year that was 2023. Today, for the first video back after a little bit of time off over the holiday period, I wanted to go over all of my personally most anticipated games for 2024. Now, firstly, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for you guys for all of the support on the channel in 2023. We only actually started this channel around September, and we were already monetized as of October because of all of you guys tuning in and seemingly enjoying the content. So myself and my two editors, Vic and Mark, very much appreciate all of the support, and here's to a massive 2024 where we are going to be covering as many games as we can possibly handle right here on the channel. Now, speaking of some of those games, the games that, like I said, I am the most excited for, we are starting off the year with an absolute banger, and that is The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, this game is coming out in only a few weeks from now, launching on January 19th, and the game is actually only $10 if you already own The Last of Us Part 2, which is definitely very exciting. It's something that is a big game changer for me. I probably wouldn't end up buying the game if it was still a full price game, simply because The Last of Us Part 2 was already, very high tech. It still looked amazing on the PS4. And so I don't think this game will necessarily feel like a $70 game, simply because we've already played it and it was only about 4 years ago at this point. So that $10 price tag, if you already own the game, is an absolute banger. And if you don't own the game, it is still going to be worth $70. If you haven't played it before, it's 100% worth that. It is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion, and it is just a bit of a sweetener for those of us who already own it to only have to pay $10. Now, I am very keen to give the actual story a replay. I've only actually played it once, which is pretty crazy to me, because most games like this that are, it's one of my favorite games of all time, I generally play them multiple times over. However, I've only played it once, so I'll definitely be replaying the actual story. But the part that I'm the most excited for is that there is a new mode coming to the game called No Return, which is a new roguelike mode, and that is going to be absolutely insane. Now, for those who don't know what a roguelike mode is, it is pretty much a crazy, like almost a survival type of game. It is often also referred to as like a dungeon crawler, for example, in older games, where you pretty much have permadeath, so you can only die once and you have to make it through all of these different waves and, I guess, get it from point A to point B in the little story of the roguelike. And if you die at any point, you have to start the whole thing over. Then, you get to the end of a certain section and then you will unlock a new section, and it's almost like a bit of a checkpoint at that point. And they're just very, very fun. We've actually seen it recently with the God of War DLC having its own mode like that as well. So I'm very, very keen for that. I think the Last of Us gameplay is going to suit that really well, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Now, another game that I'm pretty keen on, mostly just to see how it plays, is Prince of Persia. This game is definitely a little bit small. It is somewhat of a kind of like a side scroller, so I'm not too sure how it's going to play. It does look really cool though, and I'm a big fan of the art style and stuff. And I used to love Prince of Persia back in the day. So I think this is going to be a fun little game to kind of fill in a bit of a quieter start to the year for those of you who maybe aren't going to be playing The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, we then have Suicide Squad that is launching in February, and all I really have to say about this one is that it looks interesting. I'm not too sure whether this game is going to be great or whether it is going to be one of the biggest busts of 2024. It is really, really hard to tell. There's been certain stuff that looks really, really good, and then there is other gameplay that I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? So I genuinely don't know if this game is going to be good or not, but being a big IP like the Suicide Squad, I'm definitely keen to get my hands on it either way. There is then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that is launching in Feb as well. And I have to admit a sin to you guys. I have never in my life played a Final Fantasy game. I consider myself someone who plays a lot of the big games. Looking back at all the big games over the years, I generally have played most of them. However, I've never played a Final Fantasy game. So this is going to be my first time dipping my toes into that franchise. And I'm definitely very interested to see how this one goes. It seems like there is a lot of hype around it. I've heard that Final Fantasy VII was one of the best. And so the fact that it is getting a remake is very exciting to see. We then also have Dragon's Dogma 2 in March. This one really took me by surprise watching the gameplay that they've released so far. It looks really great, and it does look like it is going to be right up my alley. I have heard of Dragon's Dogma 1, but I actually never played it. Over the last 5 or so years, I've missed a lot of games simply because I was covering mostly Star Wars games and shooters on the other channels, and I put so much time into those games that I missed a lot of other games as well. So Dragon's Dogma was a game that I just never got around to, but I'm very, very keen to give the second one a try. Now, lastly, in terms of the games that do have actual announcement dates, there is one that is very, very exciting to me, and this is Black Myth Wukong that is launching in August. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is my most anticipated game of 2024, probably minus Star Wars Outlaws, which we will get to soon. But realistically, if you just remove my Star Wars bias from Star Wars Outlaws, then I think Black Myth Wukong definitely looks like it is going to be the better game, or at least a more interesting game anyway. This one gives me a lot of Elden Ring vibes when it comes to a lot of the boss types that we saw in the trailers, just absolutely whacked out bosses with multiple arms and deformed bodies and all that kind of thing. It looks absolutely crazy. The combat looks insane. It looks probably like it's going to have better combat than Elden Ring, and keep in mind Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time, and I do think it is one of the best games of all time as well. Not saying that this is going to overtake that by any means, but it just definitely gave me a lot of Elden Ring vibes, like I said, which is always a very good starting point for any game. If you make it look like a game of that quality, I'm instantly going to be interested, and I'm just really hoping this one isn't a bust, because it is a game that could potentially turn out to be not as good as we expect it to be. It does seem like it's one of those games where it's going to go either way. It's either going to be, you know, potentially game of the year and it's going to be this big underdog, almost like Baldur's Gate, for example, or on the flip side, it could be one of the biggest busts of the year. So we're going to have to wait and see, but everything I've seen so far, it has me very, very excited. Now, before we go any further, guys, I wanted to give you a quick but exciting announcement. I've actually overhauled my Patreon, and there is now a free tier on the Patreon. Yes, free Patreon, while still giving you some of the awesome bonuses that we do have over there on the Patreon. Signing up for free will give you access to my private Discord channel. You'll also get the power to vote on the content that you get to see here on the channel, having an actual say in all of the content that goes up, not only on this channel, but my other channels as well. And most excitingly, I'm going to be doing a heap of giveaways throughout this year, giving away stuff like the new merch, for example. There's going to be new merch drops every 2 months or so, giving away some games throughout the year, and all of those giveaways are going to be done through the Patreon. All you need to do is click this button that says join for free. There's no catch to it at all. You're not going to get spammed with emails or anything like that. It is literally just a free tier to the Patreon for those who aren't interested in paying, and by doing so, you're going to be more involved in the community and also get some chances to win giveaways, vote on the content you want to see, and even get access to the private Discord channel, like I said. So be sure to head to the Patreon link down in the description, click that button that says join for free. But with that being said, let's get stuck back into the video. Now, as for the games that don't actually have a release date just yet, they are all slated for 2024, but there's no actual month or anything that they're coming out just yet. The first one, which I did mention earlier, is Star Wars Outlaws. This is easily number one in terms of my most anticipated games of 2024. If you guys didn't know by now, I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and it looks like exactly the type of Star Wars game that I've wanted for years now. I do also have a lot of confidence in massive entertainment after what I see as a massive success in Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. There is then another Star Wars game that is slated for 2024. It is Star Wars Hunters. However, this game has actually been delayed 3 times now. It was actually meant to launch in 2021. So I'm putting this one on the list, but I'll be honest, I kind of just expect it to be delayed again at this point. I don't know if this game is ever actually going to come out. Now, with that being said, I've played probably 200 hours of the soft launch, and this game does genuinely have potential to be amazing. So as long as this game isn't out, I'm always going to be excited for it to launch. But like I said, it's been delayed 3 times now, so I'm kind of not sure what to believe if it is actually launching this year or not. Something else I'm very keen for is Assassin's Creed Red. That is, as far as I know, just the code name at the moment. It isn't actually going to be called Assassin's Creed Red. We don't really know too much about this game yet, other than it is set in Japan, which is a very, very promising, I guess, time period and setting for the game. There is a lot of hype around this one, and seeing as I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, I'm definitely hyped for it as well. I think Mirage was really, really good last year. It kind of felt like they did go back to their roots with that one, and so I'm kind of excited to see another installment in that style. I do hope this one is more similar to Mirage and just the original games, more so than the likes of Origin, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Not to say that those games are bad necessarily, but I just do prefer that more, I guess, smaller scale, more linear story rather than the almost open world RPGs that those games were. Now, as far as I know, this one isn't necessarily guaranteed to be 2024, but it is just being slated as that, at least in terms of there could potentially be an early access on PC or something in 2024. We're not too sure yet, but this one is Hades 2. Now, a sequel to a Game of the Year winner is always going to be very, very exciting. Hades 1 has crazy influence influence on the whole gaming industry when you actually take a look at, like I mentioned, the God of War DLC and then now The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Those roguelike modes are taking a lot of inspiration from Hades 1. Granted, Hades wasn't the first game to ever do a roguelike mode. It's been around for a very long time now, but it does seem as though Hades kind of brought that interest back in the gaming industry, and now we are seeing a lot of games shaping their DLCs or even remasters and stuff around Hades, for example. So that game has a lot of influence in the gaming industry, and to see Hades 2 coming out soon, that has also got me very, very excited. Something else I am very keen on, mostly just because my girlfriend is a massive DBZ fan, this is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And like I said, I'm mostly just keen to share a game with her, to be honest. I do like Dragon Ball Z, but I'm not, a super fan of it or anything like that. So without her being a huge fan of it, I'd probably still think it was cool. I'd probably still buy it, but I wouldn't be nearly as excited as I am. But this is probably one of the biggest games of the year for me, simply because it does also just look absolutely sick, but I'm going to be able to share that game with her as well. Now, something else that I'm very, very keen for is Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. Now, I grew up absolutely loving the Stalker games. They were some of the earliest games that I actually ever played on PC. And I'm not going to lie, this one looks like an absolutely amazing sequel to those first couple of games. The graphics look absolutely insane. It looks borderline realistic in some of the cutscenes that we've seen. And I know that cutscenes in trailers often seem as though it is just like CGI. If you guys played the original Stalker games, you'll know that the game looked absolutely amazing for its time. And I have no doubt this game is going to be one of the best looking games ever made. So I'm very, very keen for it. It is also just kind of a nice change of pace compared to what I normally play. It is a very unique game. And so yeah, I'm definitely very excited for that one as well. We've then also got Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, which is actually called Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which I find very weird. That is like calling, you look at the Jedi franchise, that's like calling the first game Jedi Fallen Order and then calling the second game Survivor Jedi 2. It's a kind of a weird name if you ask me, but regardless, this game looks absolutely bonkers. The graphics and stuff, it borderline looks real. I was just saying that about Stalker, but this game is probably going to be the best graphics that we've ever seen in a video game. It looks just absolutely wild, and I don't really buy into the console wars because I do just love all games and all consoles. I've got an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch, and a PC. I don't really care about the whole console war thing, but I do really want Xbox to have a big win here. I'm a big Xbox fan. It was actually the first console that I have. So if I had to pick a console that I, had an allegiance to, I would probably pick Xbox, to be honest. And I do just want them to have a win. They've obviously had a rough, probably decade at this point, and this game does look very promising to be a really big exclusive, which I think they definitely need after the last 5 or 10 years now. Now, lastly, we have one that is actually not confirmed to be 2024. It is just people speculating about it because we saw a trailer at the Game Awards, and this is Jurassic Park Survival. This one looked very, very interesting. We don't really know too much about it just yet. I believe it is actually just set during the time of the movies, and all we know so far really is that it is a first-person like action adventure game. So I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. It is one of my favorite franchises. Anything they announce in that franchise, I'm always going to be keen for, especially when it is a game like this compared to the other Jurassic Park games that have come out over the last few years, or I believe Jurassic World they're actually called, where they are more like you're building up a base and that sort of stuff. I'm not that interested in those types of games, but when it comes to a first person, action adventure game, that has definitely got me very excited. So I'm not too sure if that one is actually coming out this year or not, but I wanted to include it anyway. A lot of people are speculating about that. There is probably a good chance it's going to be 2025 or even later. I'm not too sure yet, but I definitely hope that this game is slated for 2024. But anyway, guys, those are some of my most anticipated games of the year. Be sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys are most excited for in 2024. Obviously, there are plenty that aren't on this list, but even the ones on this list as well. Be sure to let me know which is your most anticipated game. I'm very keen to hear all of your thoughts, but with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.